they put a poison in there and they killing the bees, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So, but I hate killing bees, man, because I tell you what, without bees, we cannot live. Man,
oh, I know that.
I think we up, gentlemen.
Okay, gotcha.
All right. You're on mute, Ron.
All right, I guess I said it don't mind. It's not bad that you guys were talking about the bees. That just let the people know that we also thinking about our environment, thinking about the future of our planet. You know what fathers need to be thinking about. So going live and you talking about the bees and how to take care of the bees. Bees are probably one of the most important insects we have in the atmosphere. If anybody knows, we talk about the birds and bees, but the bees is about pollination. That's right. And we need pollination to continue to survive, to get that same oxygen. Long story. Anyway, with that being said, I want to welcome everybody here tonight to Fatherhood Talks, what we would call the Thanksgiving, giving thanks edition. We know a lot of people are getting ready for that holiday of Thanksgiving, getting things all together, working things out, families coming together, the beginning of the season of celebrations as they begin to come. And so tonight we have kind of came to a conclusion that tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about the topic of. It's funny that we would come to this talking about the favorite child. So it's interesting because Thanksgiving, Christmas, those holidays are times when all family members come together, and sometimes we would kind of see that idea of what the favorite child is and what that looks like and how that kind of plays itself out. All right, so again, I want to welcome everybody here. This is Fatherhood Talks. If you'd like to subscribe, please do join us every Tuesday. If you know somebody who needs to join us on Wednesday, you can do that. Share our content, share so people can, you may know who's somebody going through something and they don't know how to solve a situation. They may get the answers from our content. Or they may even just feel justified in making that decision from what they hear doing our content. I think having this body of stalwart fathers to talk about topics that affect us as men and leaders, as well as cultivators of our community. So we welcome you here. I'm Ron Osborne Williams. I'm not so much the host, but more like the facilitator. Everybody's a host. Everybody can get the most. So I'm gonna let the rest of the fathers introduce themselves as we begin to get into this topic tonight, the favorite child. Welcome.
Okay, well, I guess I'll kick it off. Big Larry, 2 kids, 1 grandkid. Glad to be here, gentlemen.
Hey, good evening, gentlemen. My name is Lionel Lightborn. I'm a father to a tribe of 7, 4 young men, 3 young women, and 1 granddaughter. So it's always a pleasure to be here and see what kind of inspiration get pulled out tonight.
Elder Thomas Alberry, father of 2 with 7 grandkids.
Hi, my name is Rohan Rodok. I am a father of 2 teenage girls, and it's always an honor to be amongst the Fatherhood Talks.
Clay Robinson, 3 adult kids and 5 grandkids to the best of my knowledge. And gentlemen, it's always a pleasure. Always. Thank you.
All right, my name is Justin Gibson. I'm a father of 5. I have 4 girls and 1 boy, and it's always and forever a pleasure to be with you, gentlemen.
Elder Thomas, are you there? Connected.
Yeah, he went already.
Oh, he did? I
Yep.
missed up. Okay, so maybe I'm just slipping over here. Normally there be so many people I can't even keep up, but I guess it's the night. So let's get right into it. And this really goes for you fathers. You know, I let me ask this first question. Now it might be a little taboo, especially you fathers who have multiple children. Do you find or do you feel that you have a favorite child? And if you do have a favorite child, how have you determined to make that child your favorite child?
You know what? Let me comment on that. I don't think I have a favorite child, but what happens is that different kids bring different circumstances or different issues. And the more issues that a child introduces, the comfort level kind of goes down a little bit. I love each one of the kids, and I would say I love them equally. But some kids are 2 can bring you way more drama than 1. I have, and all of them are professional except for my son. And my son is a knucklehead, man. He's a straight up knucklehead. He's so difficult to deal with. And it's so disappointing because for as long as I've been trying to help him with business, help him through relationship issues, he seems to be the type of young man who can hold on, get a young lady, and whatever she says, he falls for it. He's a very emotional person, but he can't control the emotion. And you try to talk to him about first who you select, who you lay with. And then if that situation is not the best, then what decisions do you make? Because you can't go down a path of destruction. And when you try to talk to a young man about that, I'm telling you, that is the most difficult thing. A young man does not want to listen when it comes to a woman.
Okay. That's
I think for me, being favored is inspired, right? So each child, you know, I got 7 of them. So each one of them inspires some type of favor that's derives from their character, their personalities. So each one of them, I can just pinpoint with my eyes closed things about them and about their personality and their character that I favor. But that being favored is a double-edged sword, and here's why. We always used to ask, see, you know, I think we have where the discrepancy come in at is when parents favor one particular child, but the other children don't know particularly why. And so if you understand the potential nurturing that goes along with favoring and why a parent may potentially favor a particular child, it's usually for something long-term, right? Because certain kids need extra attention. They're going to need longer attention and may need more attention even after that parent has gone on. You understand? I think the problem with that is we never bridge the gaps between the other children to understand that I may need your help in not so much favoring the child, because it's seen as favoritism, but it's really favoring, like when you break your arm. You ever broke an arm or hurt something, you tend to favor that thing you hurt because it needs to be nursed back to healing and then eventually wholeness. Well, that's how parents favor their children. For some particular reason, some of that thing can be, sometimes it can be inspired, and other times it can be something that may cause, what they call it, an indigent, cause that particular child to be indigent probably for the rest of his life. And disability, he may not function at a particular level, and you need his siblings to be, or to be the family that you were to him. And so I've seen situations where I think particularly one in Miami. I'm not sure what the dynamics was, but the young man who was killed by the guy who went around shooting homeless people, and his family came from out of town, and they was pretty well to do, but he was on the streets. I didn't investigate to know why he was on the streets, but I think I was more shocked to know that he had family. And so with that, to me, it's like, where's the disconnect where I can be okay and my brother's not? You understand? Even though mama might have left some property behind, or dad might have left some property behind because of that situation, because you don't know where you will be at tomorrow. And so that favoring could be both ways. It could be inspired, but it can also be something that's injured in that child that only that parent know, that may need to be addressed or nursed for long point of time. That's just my take on it.
Hey, you know,
Let me say, I'm sorry, Ron, but Lionel hit the nail on the head. And I say that because my wife, her mother say, you don't need help per se, but you got to help your sister. Because her sister is the type of person would go to the party and just drink too much or make the wrong decision at school. And when she was in college, my wife had to always look out for her and would go to the fraternity place or the sorority place and go get her before stuff got crazy, because she was just that type of person. And now that young lady is in her 50s, her husband, just touching her 50s, her husband and everyone still know is still in her. So Lionel, and that's something I had not really thought about, okay? And my two daughters, both master degrees, both of them got great jobs. My son, who I've tried to help through business, but he won't listen to me. And Lionel, I guess he's the one who, I don't know, because he had all the opportunity, intelligent person, but he just can't connect. And then maybe it's a brain that's injured there. I don't know.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something, Clay. I was watching this episode of Judge Mathis, and I know that sometimes watch court shows and you try to figure. I understand, but in that episode of Judge Mathis, the mother was upset. I mean, no, the mother had passed, and the daughter was upset that the mom left the one little brother all the stuff, right? And she was saying that, I've took care of her. I've been, I made sure everything was okay for her. I had did this and did that and blah, blah, blah. And I think Judge Masters made it real clear to her that, listen, your mom knew that you would be okay. She left it for him because he wasn't going to be okay. And that's not a favoritism, because really their favorite child a lot of times is the one that's there with them doing all the work.
Right.
But you don't see it because you're looking for sometimes I think we look for some favor, and then we get very jealous when favor is given to our siblings who ain't doing nothing, who not, we feel like, well, where's the loyalty for me? If any, I should be number one. But you are number one. You're number one. If you're doing it because you want to do it, you're number one. And they know that they can depend on you, know that everything will be okay. And they have the expectation that you're going to do the same thing for your siblings who can't. Even though they, like you said, Clay, even though they got the same fair shake of the whole situation,
Right.
They got it. And Lionel said it first, but that's our family. And we don't really know deep down what traumas, and I people hate when people say, here come the trauma train, but we don't know what type of traumas, even though we came through the same household, same things, that we don't know that our siblings may be facing or dealing with, that we never even fathom that was the issue.
Yeah, I agree.
So sometimes it's not like Clay trying to say you might have a wire off, but it could be just, is he the oldest, youngest? Because I love to look at
he's the youngest. He's the youngest.
Right. Let's see. Well, and another big thing we look at, and especially in my field, is we look at the ordering, sibling ordering, and he's the youngest of two older girls, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
He was a baby doll. He was their baby doll. So he
but
expected
let me mention this, because when you mentioned that, Ron, it goes back to when his mother and I parted ways. We parted ways when he was 16 years of age. He had the choice to live with me or to live with her. He chose to live with her. When I was paying child support, she gave all of the money, every check to him. When he was 16 years old, he was buying leather coats and the stuff designed, and we would ride. And I say, how did you get this? Well, you need, let me help you get you a job. I sent him to Job Corps in Ohio. I was living in Michigan. She went to Job Corps in 2 days and got him. I helped him get a job at a supermarket around the corner. She went to the supermarket, wouldn't let him work. When I asked him about the checks, and I said, CJ, how do you have so much money? He said, Dad, I don't need to work at McDonald's. I get more money than them who working for McDonald's. Mama give me all the money. And it was so disappointing. And he now talks to her horribly. He treat her like, man, if I tell you guys some of the things that young man has said to his mother, it would tell you, because it breaks my heart all the time. But she created a monster. And whoever's listening in this live chat, remember, you can't treat a child and give them everything and don't expect anything from them. He's never paid a bill. He's 40 years of age, man. He's never paid a bill. Do you hear me? I mean, I'm done, man. I get disappointed even talking about his blood.
Clay. You gave the history, nowhere in the present, and we hope that in the future it's a mystery. But here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to put my chime in. Some folks in life, they repeat the actions or repeat the action or repeat the actions, and sometimes they have to stop on their own. Sometimes they have to fall and fall and fall, and we hope they don't. We hope they can get back up. But sometimes you're as a father, you're still there. And mind you, history was rough. But we talk about present and future. All I can say, don't leave him out. Stay in the corner, because remember, he had a rough start. Regardless of the mom. When I mean rough start, I mean even though he was enabled, that's still a rough start, because he didn't learn the skill sets of flying out of the nest. You just said it. He's 40.
Yeah. So
just stick with him. Stay there in the corner, because at some point he's gonna have to break his folly.
You know, that sounds real good. And I worked in mental health for 25 years also. And I've managed 3 locations. And one of the things that I've recognized is that when a parent spends a lot of time trying to nurture a child and that child rejects it, it wears the parent out. It almost can shorten your lifespan, because you give so much, you try so hard, and you're always knocked back down. So when I was working in mental health, I would beg parents to please come and pick up your child for the holiday, take them home just for a little bit. They would say, Mr. Robinson, we have had them all of their lives. We have been through so much. We're done going through it. You'd keep them, because what a child can do is destroy that holiday, that opportunity, that moment. And they have had so many things that have been destroyed. And all parents, you can say that you love them and you can give your love, but you can only take so much yourself, because we're all just individuals who try to do the best that we can. And my son has had plenty of opportunities. It's been endless, man. I'm telling you, it's endless. Okay, but I still love him, and I'll still be there trying to help him. And I'm gonna say this, I just got an insurance policy on him today. Reason being is that he's with a young lady. Both of them have had guns in their hands. He's the type of young man who's extremely emotional. He has sat on the bed and cried with a gun in his hand, okay? As much as you try to talk to him, when he's not in his emotional state, I don't want to hear it, F you, da-da-da-da-da. He'll go that route. I'm really sharing to you guys, man. I'm really sharing. This is something I've never said to any man walking, okay? But I just feel like letting it go right now. And I'm done for a while.
You know, Clay, I think that what this is what you just pointed out was this almost embodies when we're talking about this idea of favorite child, right? And in many instances, your son may be your favorite child, but it's not how we perceive it. You know, we perceive the favorite child when we put on the panel, put on the pedestal, this, that, and the other. When a lot of times, the favorite child sometimes may be the child that needs the most from us. Who and for whatever reason, I mean, again, there's no rhyme and no reason for human behaviors a lot. We like to say the ABCs of behavior, right? But sometimes the ABC of behaviors is not one of the reasons why people do the things they do and what ends up happening, how they happen. There's also some other factors that work into that, like, you know, like nurture versus nature. You know, I'm always put those things in the mix and what we look at. So, Clay, thank you for letting us be using that as a starting point for this conversation today. The favorite child.
I just want to say that I can definitely understand exactly what Clay said. My son is in that same type of mode. When he was a young man, he was enabled. And I used to tell my wife, I said, you know what? You are creating a monster. You just don't understand what you're doing. But it's that mother's love and that mother's nurturing that just wants to give and to give and to give and to give. You know, I say, but you know, you need to understand what you need to do is we need to train up this young man that he can take care of a lady and children someday, that he'll be the head of his household. And that cannot happen by enabling him. To make a long story short, he basically turned out pretty much the same way that Clay's son turned out. I don't give up on him. I try to, I try to structure him. Let me try to put it that way, because what he needs is structure and say, listen, no, nobody's going to do this for you, because guess what? If you do it, if you offer to do it, they will let you every time, you know, and it's never a time that they won't. So I definitely appreciate it and appreciate what you said today, Clay. I also wanted to talk about my own situation. You're talking about favorite son. When I was coming up, my brother was the favorite son, and I don't think because they liked him more. It's just that he showed more potential, you know. And they said, well, you know, he's going to be the one that leads the family, and he's the one that we need to push him in a certain direction, you know. And they would say that they talk about him and say, oh, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. They said, well, what about Lawrence? Oh, who knows what's going to happen to him? You know, it's just, you know, you know. But what they did not consider, and they did push him to that point, to the point that he went to law school and he got his JD and he was an attorney, but mentally he imploded.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
They did not anticipate that. So now it's a situation where he is basically at that point where he can take care of himself and he's gotten remarried, but as far as taking care of the family and the family structure and the legacy, let me put it that way, they want to carry on the legacy. You're going to carry on the legacy, and he, to be honest, he just does not have the ability to do that. It's just not in him to do that. But you know, they look at potential, but it's not always potential. Sometimes it's that the mental ability, the gymnastics that you have to go through to make it happen.
I'm sorry. I'm glad you said that, because what you just explained was potential, and the other gentleman, I'm sorry, Clay, you just explained problems, right? So here it is. One was favored, particularly for his potential. The other one may be favored, and I mean favored with extra attention because of the problems that he creates. The thing about it is, and particularly with a wise parent would already know how to balance both the problems and the potential. Because I've seen Lauren's point, I've seen that as well where you can see the potential, but you didn't factor in the principles, right?
Mhm.
And so you guys were all behind his brains and his smarts, but you didn't have anything, you didn't know anything about his heart, where his heart was. And not knowing that, yes, he may be the first to go to college, but he may also be the first to sell the whole family out. And I mean that don't really buy into your legacy, because once you teach a man how to get his own legacy, he may very well, just for independence alone, devalue the legacy that you wanted him to be a part of. If you ever ask him permission to be a part of it. And he may even find resentment in that because, oh, well, you didn't really ask it. You didn't ask my opinion, blah, blah, blah. And so this is why you have to, the first company that any man should own, it should be his family. Most families should be companies. And everybody should have a stake and a buy-in and investment in that particular family when it comes to particular decisions and assets, et cetera, for the longevity and the legacy of that particular family. Because what the children don't know, I don't care how much you think you hate your brother, to see him on the street and for everybody else to know that's your brother, you understand? And have to do something to your peace at night when you sleep. And so that's the wisdom of Big Mama them, of knowing, like, listen, this house here for a reason. You don't know the longevity of your peace, you understand? And how this may be attached to your prosperity and your progress as it pertains to existing as the total family.
Yeah. You know, I wanna point, you know, always the researcher in me come out and I'm listening. And the first thing I think about is that it's not coincidental that Clay and Lawrence there has had this same type of issues with their sons. Because I think it's not just an issue with their sons, but it's issues with us as men. And in the world we live in the society we live in. I think that the pressures, I think sometimes the pressures is so much where even when we are already ready to take the pedestal and make the move, we realize when we on the pedestal that we still getting crapped, or we might not, you know, even at our greatest. And so what do you think that vision of seeing around them other young men, and I think about this about the young men I see all the time. That's why, you know, this was really adamant that I went back to doing this high school thing for a little while. And I see it. I see the young men drawn to the person, the kind of person I am. And when we have a conversation, they even though I can say things to them in a way, but it's like you automatically know, okay, this young man has a father, but how is his father interacting with him compared to how I may be interacting with him as a teacher? Or you see young men who you know who say, young man told me, hey man, I ain't got no dad. I say, you got a father, Doc. And he said, I ain't got no dad. I said, you don't know who he is? He said, yeah, I just don't deal with him. Me and my mom don't deal with him. And then I realized in our interaction in the class, I could see why we had some discourse that we had, because I held him to some standards, some accountability, that he called his mom on the phone, walked out of class. So, you know, it is something we have to think about. And I think Lionel talks about this a lot, that we are, you know, we look at this idea and we play like we're okay. We wear masks like we're good, but we all have this struggle for progress in the society. And it may, the struggle is for all of us as Black people, I think. But the struggle is hard because we live in a society where men run what happens. And sometimes we're not feeling adequate by feeling that we are given the equal due to run something. So imagine our sons see us not being able to run something or be able to do something. What would they do? They don't have that same stigma. I mean, they have that stigma that the daughters don't have, because it's not And it's fun. We got a tricky world we live in because the daughters have been able to, and I keep saying, if we want to switch this game, we got to play another, we can't keep running the wishbone. We got to switch it up. We keep trying to run the wishbone. You know, we need to do a couple sneak plays. And our women are the catalyst for a lot of those sneak plays. But we got to be unified as a family for it to happen. You know, and a lot of times we're not. We separate but equal. And when you're separate but equal, you're not working together. It's almost a competition. So I'm competing against her. She competing against me. Who the child loves the most? The child loves me more because I do this. Oh, the child loves her more. When really, we both want to love the child. We just got to find a way to bring it back so we can have that. But then again, a lot of that's coming from an image that we're looking at that's telling us, is an image telling us, you got to compare to these people over here. You got to look like what the social construction is to be a family and have a family, when that may not really be how we operate. We might operate a little bit different. You know, we don't come, and I argue this all the time with people who say, oh, it's the patriarchy. Well, I'm just going to keep it, I'm going to keep it real. And this is my opinion. You can challenge me on it. Black Americans, descendants of slavery, are who was brought through this slavery mechanism, mainly was raised on patriarchy. But we weren't. Matriarchy is our system because our moms was able to deal with us when we didn't have dads. When the dad was sent off, or dad was gone, or dad was separated, moms held strong and gave us the strength for the things we needed, how we operated. And sometimes we kind of like discount that because we're saying that we got to be the man, we got to be the father, we got to be, but we didn't make it. We didn't make that. We didn't make that for ourselves, but we survived through it. And I think that's the biggest thing, that we are able to survive. And now we know it and we have the knowledge, we can begin to do some things differently. But it takes for us to have the knowledge, because, and we know that in every system, alcoholism, drugism, if you don't acknowledge what the true issue is, you're going to keep saying all the other problems are the problem. But the true problem is the oppression that we might be facing as a people, and then all the out cause of that. And I know people say, well, I ain't never been oppressed. I'm good. And I say, okay, fine, my brother. Fine, my sister. But if you believe that, fine. But I just don't believe that. I believe that the root of most of our problems come from some of the oppression that we face then and today presently, and it affects our family system all the way from us all the way down to our seeds. So it's just something we have to be mindful of to work around, so.
And I think, listen to what you guys are saying. I think there's a piece of it of causing too much shelter, like, two of the stories that like Clay was sharing and also Lawrence was sharing, that I think there's a natural wanting to shelter, right? I don't want you to experience what I experienced. I want you to go through life not having to know the struggle I had, right? And so you overcompensate and you turn that child, whichever child it is, into that so-called favorite child, but it's detrimental because a lot of the experiences that you're sheltering them from are experiences that will shape them. And so if I've never, in some cases, if I've never held a job, when I need money and I got to go get a job, I'm never going to be able to survive at that job because I won't understand what it is to have to listen or actually operate in that social construct. You see what I'm saying? And so sometimes we have to step back and allow for experiences and not allow to shelter too much. Because what happens is the child, I'll tell you now, the child who feels like they're not the favorite child is the one who's going through all those bumps and bruises, is the one who's going and making their way. And they're the more successful one than the one that's the favorite, because we've put them in a sense of, you're never going to lose. in a sense, if you get what I'm saying. And so when we put someone in you're never going to lose situation, and they finally do lose, they just don't know how to handle it. And that begins the decline for that person if they cannot overcome in time.
As I listen to you guys, go ahead, Lawrence.
Just real quick, you know what? I think that in that whole female schematic, there is, especially for our Black boys, mothers are afraid to see their child fail. And just like you said, failure shapes you. You learn much more from failure than you do from success. But it's like, it's just something in mothers. Fathers, I hate to see my child fail too, but I realize that it's a process that they need to go through. Okay, because that's how they learn, but it's something, and you fellas, like I said, can tell me. I don't know what it is. I mean, maybe it's just that nurturing factor that's in a female that will not allow, they just won't allow it. I'm not gonna allow my boy to fail. I'm gonna pick him up, and I mean, how many times have you heard on the phone, whenever my kids have an issue, they don't say, look, Dad, let me talk to you. They say, let me speak to Mom. Because they know Mom gonna get them out. Dad might say, well, you know what? What you need to do is you need to try to do this first, and then let's see how that comes out. And then then we'll handle it from there. But Mom gonna say, no. Let me intervene. I need to get in there. I need to do something. Now I'm gonna do something to straighten out this situation, and I don't know how that you can turn that around, because that is just not a good thing, at least in my opinion.
Well, Lawrence, it's not a good thing if it's not balanced. It's the balance part of that. It's the balance of it, because I think that when we are able as fathers to be there to give that, it's like. And you know what? Somebody got to do it. Also, the relationship we have is on a relationship with the mother.
Exactly.
This is why this is so important. The relation for us to decide to be men and to be fathers has a lot more to do with just our children. It has also the relationship we want to have with our children's mother. Our mothers are, whatever you have, because without the part of them being able to even come to you and say, and they want to. Let me tell you something. As stubborn as we may each be when we're not together, even when we are together, they want to be able to be comfortable enough to say, hey, what do you think? You think this should happen? Even right now, I think about and when I've been involved with women that had children, one of the main things they would want to do is ask me, what did I think and how it, and I would say, well, what you think? The first thing I would say, no, if they dad, what their dad thought about this. Then I give my opinion about what I think. even in reference to my own child. Ask me what I think, and I'll tell you. But a lot of times it depends on if they also are going to listen to you when you give them the advice that you're going to give them. I remember telling a friend of mine a long time ago when we dated, about her son and the things she should let him do this and that. And she was really gung-ho of what you said, Lawrence. She didn't want him to fail. She wanted to do this and do that. And now, as a 20-something-year-old man, it's hard. It's like, oh, she told me not too long ago, I wish I would have, you told me a lot of stuff. I just wish I would have listened, but I couldn't hear you because I was doing it myself. And I would say, you don't have to do it yourself. It's not, at that time, you don't have to do it yourself. But I think it's that thing that it's my bear to cross. And as fathers, we have to find a way to let the mothers know that I'm going to help you carry that cross. It's not yours to carry alone. I know that society tell you that we're going to be gone or we ain't going to do it. And just because we don't agree, don't mean we going to still carry the cross.
Ron, the blessing is the mother being cooperative. When I speak of my son, The mother was not a hostile person. She just had influence. My son told me at age 16, as soon as the relationship ended, he said, Dad, man, you know, as much as you and I hang, my friends say that they don't even have a dad. They don't see a dad. And he was braggadocious because he and I was hanging all the time. But I still could not, because he'd go home to his mother. Okay. So whatever happened in that house, she had the influence. And that's where we lose. That's where we can't get that situation to change, because whoever makes it the easiest for a person, that's the side they're going to fall on. And you said that a little earlier. She'd give him everything. He didn't need anything. He didn't need to work for anything. She was a producer. I was a producer. She very, very talented person. You know, he didn't want for anything, but he needed to create his own. And that's what I tried to get him to do, starting at age 14, working at a supermarket, but she would not let him. Job Corps, she would not let him. He bought property. I tried to help him and guide him there. He bought a house, a 2-family house. They didn't pay rent one time, not because he was too young. He come going there talking about, hey, give me my rent. And these were mature people in the hood. They said, oh, hell, get out of here. Now, he wouldn't even let me help because he thought he could do it himself and everything would fall in. So a mother's influence in relationships, when they change, when we change our relationship partner, seldom do two people agree to leave at the same time. The other thing is that, how do you hold on to that relationship? How do you hold on and do what you need to do to help all of the kids? Because it's no longer me or her, it's the kids involved. So those are the things that you have to look at. And it's so difficult when we can't get a good relationship. And that's the disappointment for me. I had a guy call me just 30 minutes ago. A young man who's just finished some sessions. They're in family court now. He has a 5-year-old daughter. The mother has been telling the daughter a lot of ugly things about the father. The daughter's crying and going through a lot of issues now. They're getting ready to take it back into family court because the father is so concerned that his daughter is emotionally impacted at age 5 based upon what the mother is telling her about her father. They couldn't even have a visit, man. It was just terrible. And he called me and said, Clay, what can I expect? That's what a mother will do when she's mad. Talk to me, man. Give me some more advice, Ron. Talk to me. Help me, fellas.
I'm gonna put something in there real quick. You know, as Ron and I go to court, and I always say this to all fathers. I have fathers who I invite to the program and they don't come. They call me every day. Just today, I deal with a lot of fathers. I'm from the island, and they tend to have pride and ego, so I can't get them on the program. But let me say this: we gotta think of the end in mind. Child support is designed to take one income from one home to support another home. Now we talk about power and control, and that can also go with raising the children. So one of the things I would say to any father, if you're in the court system or you're dealing with a mother who you and her, let's say, don't have the same values, we guys know what that goes, right? You gotta fight for time. Here's why it's important to fight for time. I think Ron says it many times. The child will learn a little from the mom and a little from the dad. And many guys, when I go to court, they choose the option to pay. You know what? I can't, man, you know, I can't do this, man. These white folks here. I mean, I'm just gonna write a check, and it's a done deal. But it's not really a done deal, because what happens? The money goes to the dealership. The money goes to the sneakers place. But what happened? The father does not get time. That word time, because time is money, to spend with that child to help nurture that child. I want all fathers to think about this, because what we're seeing here with Clay is I suspect the child support is gone, but now we're into a different arena. So I always say advocate for time, because that's your that's the only thing you have. And let me say this, not because a judge made judges don't like to change judgments, but as long as you're in that court fighting for time, man, somebody will listen. Keep that in mind. Somebody will listen.
Well, Rohan, somewhat. I hear you, brother, and I want us to be, but a lot of people can't fight for time because they don't even have the paternity permission to do anything. You know, they can do some stuff. I mean, they could even do what they're supposed to do. How they supposed to do it.
Ron, I have fathers who tell me I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to vote, man. The system, I'm paying child support, man. I'm not going to vote, man. Hell no. I'm out. Those people don't care about me. So I ask him, when last have you seen a child? He says, man, I haven't seen my child in 3 years. He has a brand new car and a brand new girlfriend. Okay, fine. That, you know, hey, it is what it is. But what about your child? All he talks about is the lady. He talks about her, and so we know that African American men are traumatized most times after they go through having to deal with their children, having issues from their own childhood. What I'm saying, sometimes you can put your head in the sand, but your body is still exposed. So at some point in time, you got to take your head out of the sand and face the well, let's say face the monster, so to speak. I'm not saying it's easy. All I'm saying, if you don't get that time, that check can only go so far. And I'm gonna give you an example. My daughter said to me, Daddy, my underwear is tight. I said, what? I said, your underwear is tight? What are you talking about? Well, my underwear is tight, Daddy. I need some underwear. But the mom is at Sawgrass Mall, walking in Sawgrass Mall with big bags and shopping and living the American dream, so to speak. But I was there. What happened if I stepped away and still paying that child support? She'll still be at the Sawgrass Mall and my daughter with tight underwear. So sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable. But I'm not trying to just turn the program in a different way. All I'm saying is I'm not going to use the word fight. I always use the word advocate. Because fight seems to be a common word here. Everybody's fighting. But we gotta stick it through, man. And it's tough. I hear you, Clay. It's tough. But I mean, I don't know, man.
But you know, I would listen to you guys, but I just got a revelation and listening to all of you guys, particularly Ron, when you brought up the word balance, right? And I think Michelle Obama, and that resonated with me because it's very rare that something pertaining to manhood, right, can come out of the mouth of a woman to resonate with another man.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And she said something because I am a father. I think had I not been a father, I would have not understand what she said, just simply based on my experience and the education of being a father. She said that we as parents, we love our sons and raise our daughters, right? Mm-hmm. And so being that as it may, I understood that, I mean, right away, even if I couldn't articulate exactly why I understood what she said at the time, I understand at this particular moment right now when Ron brought up that word balance between the mothers and the fathers. Now, what do the science of balance between a mother and a father look like? Both are willing to give, because I think one gives something that the other one can't give, right?
Right.
I think naturally so. And I think mothers give what they give the bonding part of their child, for that child. But the father brings the building part to that child. And so true balance and the true science of balance when it comes to parenting a child and what a child needs is bonding plus building together. Mm-hmm. And if all a mother knows how to do is bond, right? And she thinks the building part is not valuable, then what's going to happen is that kid is going to be raised with a lot of bonding, but no building skills. And right. This is what Clay is fighting against, because he knows what bonding looks like, but he don't grasp what building look like, right. Because at some point that child may have took sides. And we talk about favor from parent to child, but sometimes there's favor from child to parent. And if that child particularly favors that parent, then the other parent is going to be on the opposite side of that particular favor. Mm-hmm. And so I think the Bible said it best, you can't love two masters. You're going to love one and hate the other. And mm-hmm. So that right. Doesn't mean when it comes particularly to man versus woman, but what it means is particularly when it comes to bonding versus building. And so if I love bonding more than I love building, then bonding, I'm a favor bonding, and then building is going to become the enemy, or I'm going to hate building. And I think a lot of time the building is absent, with the father, because the father who actually gives the necessary discipline it takes to really, I ain't talking about discipline as far as punishment, but I'm talking about discipline far as construct when it comes to building that particular child. And so when it comes to that, men are equipped with something that's very, very powerful. And sometimes, particularly at Clay Point, and even at my point, because I have adult children as well, sometimes silence can be your greatest sovereignty.
Right.
And in the imagination of a man, we don't understand that we can all, y'all never talk too much. No, because silence is our sovereignty. And that's how we actually process things. But not only that, that's how we process play. That's how we actually discipline with our process. Or when we have to give a process, particularly, not only just to our child, but to our significant others and the people around us as well. And so you got to learn how the science of sovereignty, or why silence is your sovereignty, and how to go ahead and navigate that particular issue.
You know, I think that and we've lost well, let me put it this way. I think that with some things, we just need to go back to the old school way. And what I mean by that is that there are just some things that our kids don't need to know. What I mean by that is that, like, you know how your parents say, don't be involved in grown folks' business? Okay, this is grown folks' business. You don't have a decision into this. You know, if you come in, and I think a lot of situations will be solved if a child comes in and asks something, and then the question that the whatever parent is, if they come and ask the dad, you say, well, did you ask your mom what your mom said? Okay. And then he say, well, then you got your answer. If you come to the mom and the mom say, what did your dad say? Okay, now you got your answer. I don't need to say anything. In other words, now I might disagree, but we can do that in private. That's not part of a child's business. They don't need to know that. That's one of the things that I think, especially in school, how we want to fight the teacher. You know, now I won't always say the teacher is right. Now I might fight with the teacher in private, but I'm never gonna fight with the teacher in front of my child, because that's grown folks' business. You know, and I think we've lost that. We let our kids get involved in too much stuff that has to do with making decisions. And no, that's not your place to make the decision. When you old enough and you paying rent for yourself, now you can make your own decision.
but let me. What's so funny, Larry, that you say that? When that time comes, they can't make no decisions. They don't have the skills because they have yet to learn the skills to make those kind of decisions, because they've been so busy faking it as a co-parent to their parents. They ain't been watching how to become a parent or how to be an adult. They've been faking that they're adult already. Listen, I'm gonna bring back this thing that Rohan, yes, the other day we was talking about kids in the school and parents calling. The guy was saying the parents would call and say, my child need their phone because I need to call them during the middle of the day. And it was very interesting because the question was, what did they do before we had phones? Your kid in school. And so again, Larry, you make a really good point about this idea of our parenting has become more collaborative. And in that collaborative, it has become a little bit permissive. We have lost the authoritarian type of parenting that we've had in the past. And it's almost to the point of being neglectful. Now, somebody won't say that because they don't go, I bought my kid dressed to the T. They got the best clothes, they eat good. But that's materialistic thing. We're talking about them being able to function social wise, not thinking that they are owed an explanation. Like if I tell you something, I know we and again, I have to be mindful to think about people. What about safety and people who are going to do stuff to kids? Yeah, I got all that. We're talking about fundamentals. You can't do nothing to me if I have been taught and learned and watched my parents do something. So I bring this back because learned behaviors are where we really get the things popping. This is where the kids really learn what they learn. Not what we tell them, but what they see us do. You know, if we say we sit down and all eat dinner, no phones, they'll do it if you don't do it. But if you come to and got your phone on the table, you know, when it come down to sit down and eat dinner, I believe that move all this stuff out. Let's put that we only got enough room on the table for the food, not anything else. And the kids will follow the lead of the parents, but that means that we also got to be disciplined. We got to be disciplined.
When we talk though, we also have to consider additional influence. When young people, as I indicated, my son and I was good till he got into his 20s, but now he's into relationship, and the relationship that he has with his lady friend outweighs mom and dad. So no matter how much we try to influence and encourage him, he falls in that direction. So now his choice of person that he's dealing with becomes the influence. His mother was good until he replaced her with his woman. And when he became a father, he now holds on to his own attitude, and he doesn't have the building. He had the bond, but now his bond is someplace else. So he'll always choose that outside person because that's his mate. So we only have a small window of influence. And if that child doesn't get it early, and that child connects to mom and dad in a better path early, he or she becomes subject to the outside influences of relationship. And that will almost always trump mom and dad, period. I see it constantly, and I'm experiencing it with my son.
They have a saying.
Yeah, but you know, I have to say, you know, I want to. Sorry, Rohan.
A quick one. What they say, a man's I heard it from a lady. A son's a son until he meets a wife. Have you guys ever heard about that before? A son is a son until he meets a wife.
Yeah, but what kind of son is he if he hasn't become a man to know how to handle a wife, Rohan? I mean, it's cool. And I mean, I think that everybody, these young people always gonna meet a woman because they got hormones telling them keep their eyes open. So it ain't like a thing like, oh well, when I meet the woman, I'm gonna do the right thing. They have to learn how to do the right thing, because if they don't, this is where we get the domestic violence and all the abuse and all the you know, the kind of things, man. That 5 hoods that I talk about all the time: childhood, boyhood, manhood, husbandhood, fatherhood. I know people say, well, that's ideal, but ideal is what we should always be striving for. Because if we do it in each one of those stages, we have all the tools we need to move to the next stage. I'm sorry, Gene.
No, you're good. It's just building on what you're saying, because even alluding to what you were saying earlier, when we're looking at these relationships, it's not only what they see, it's also what we reinforce. Because sometimes we enforce that behavior without even, whether we realize it or we don't realize it, there's reinforced behavior because we're rewarding them for whatever they do. And it's regardless on if it's good or bad, they're just getting that reinforcement that they need. And we have to sometimes be conscious of that, of the reinforcements that we're giving when it comes to that child. Because they may not have both parents in the household, but they will have, if you're an involved father and an involved mother, examples of the way you should be behaving. And not only should they have the example of how you're behaving when they see you out with everybody else, but how you're behaving when they see you with each other. Because one thing I'll say that Clay said, we have a small window of influence. No, we have at least 13 years of a window.
That's a small window
to influence. But right. If you're doing it right, and I'll tell you now, if you're doing it right, and I don't want to say that, I shouldn't say right, that's wrong. If you're doing it with intention, that's a better way. You're doing it with intention and strategically. that reinforcement, you may not see it when they hit 13, 14, 15, because now they want to be individuals. You know, they're growing into their own mind. But once they start hitting the adulthood, they're going to start replaying on the stuff you told them when they were younger and reverting to those things because it's a foundation that was built. And once you start building the foundation intentionally, and I'm going back to what Lightbone was saying when he says you have your how do you put it? You have your emotion and you have your builder. For lack of a better. Once
building and bonding.
you build, thank you. You have your bonding and you have your building. Once you start building that foundation, and it's a strong foundation and it's an intentional foundation, it's going to be hard for that thing to fall later on.
Jan,
And
you know what?
that's what they're going to refer to.
That sounds so good, but you know what? When we're young, we're 20, 21, 22, 23, etc. We don't know that.
Right.
All of us are experienced now based upon our history and the things that and the conversations such as this. If I could go back, man, when he was a baby and he would and how his mother and I might have been able, because she was not a communicator, she was a hollering person. She would always come up and just start hollering about something that happened a month ago. And that was never a good image, okay? But we didn't know those things then. We learn now. So how do you instill in a child the success that they need when you don't know it?
Well, you know,
Well,
Clay.
here's the thing, Clay. Here's the thing, and I understand, and I it's not that I disagree with you. There's no such thing as a perfect parent. You see what I'm saying? Because when you're in the moment, sometimes, and you understand this, we're all professionals, but there are times where you get into the moment and that professionalism is out the window. It becomes more of a a layman's person's lifestyle. So, for lack of a better term. But we have that knowledge now, right? To facilitate those coming up behind us. And unfortunately, sometimes it's hard it's not impossible. It's just hard to rebuild, or like Lightbone likes to say, recondition the mind of someone else for their benefit unless they're willing to take it.
I agree.
And so that's where the difficulty lies, because you can always teach someone something. You can always educate them, but not everyone's going to take your education. And sometimes they will accept the education, but then it's too late. And so that's some of the pitfalls that, and that's just a flaw of the human being. That's some of the pitfalls that we have. Sometimes you will get the best advice that you've ever gotten, not listen to it, 10 years down the road say, dang, man, I wish I had listened to you when you first told me this,
right.
and I wouldn't be here where I am now.
Right.
And so, it's difficult. It's hard to pinpoint when someone's going to learn.
I agree.
But just keep pouring into them, because eventually they're going to learn.
Well said.
Yeah, but also I wanted to just say real quick, that what the word says is that a man shall leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. Okay, I don't care. That's not living together. It's not we sleeping in the same bed, but no, you ain't married. Okay, then basically you are not cleaved to that person. Okay, now you may think that you are, but you are not, and you will not reap the benefits of cleavage until that is your wife. And that's what I try to tell my son. I said, when he was living with someone, I said, you know what? Yeah, y'all living together. You doing the things that married people do, but don't mistake for a minute that that's your wife, because it's not, and you need to understand that. And until you reach that point in your life that you're willing to make that type of commitment, then you're going to reap the benefits of that. But I think until you do, then you won't. Now, like I said, I'm call that old fashioned.
Hey, Larry, you hit it right on the head. Until you're ready to, the commitment, it's not just the commitment, because I think we're good with the commitment. It's the sacrifice. It's a lot of the sacrifice that being able to let go of your selfish needs for your other partner, for the person that we say this all the time. I'll sacrifice for I can sacrifice. But you can see a lot of times people are not sacrificing. They're not willing to sacrifice. They're willing to collaborate. They're willing to compromise. But a lot of times in these relationships, you need to sacrifice to let go of some of who you are to be better with the person that you're with.
But Ron,
And a lot of
Ron, and what you're saying, you know, it's not that I'm disagreeing with you, because I agree with you what you say. It's the fact that you have a lot of people out there that think relationships are power struggles. And until you stop thinking of your relationship as a power struggle, you won't sacrifice.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Great. I can't even agree more, Gene, because that's where it becomes. If you're willing to sacrifice, you're not struggling with the person. You're saying, I come with you, I come to you and give, you know, like the three kings, I give you gifts, and they welcome you and say, oh, I come and give you 3 gifts.
But Ron, gentlemen, that's okay. I like how you put that, and the Bible says, cleave to your wife and so forth. But what about guys who have done that and who have sacrificed? And you go through a relationship, and at the end of the relationship, you're told you need to do what I tell you to do. So here we go. We talk about marriage, living with a person, start having kids, buying property, doing stuff to grow. And at the end of the day, the wife says to you, you know what, you need to do what I tell you to do. You know, if you don't do what I tell you to do, you ain't gonna have no sex. You ain't gonna have. I'm in control. So
you're in an abusive relationship, Doc. You're in an abusive relationship.
I know that, but here's why I'm saying this to you guys. And I think Elder Thomas is on here. You gotta know the character, because when you tell your son, guess what? You're doing things that married people do. Once you're married now, then it matches the culture or the narrative. But what kind of marriage you got to talk about? Because remember, there are people who get married, and as Bernard mentioned, he mentioned the power struggle. He mentioned that the undercurrent is there, but both parties have a different definition of the undercurrent. A female told me once, if you love me, you will do what I tell you to do. No, that statement is a deep statement. No, you can get married to her and do whatever she tells you to do, or vice versa. Let me do it the other way too. I don't want to touch females' toes in this program, because we respect both parties. You have to have a clear understanding and a good communication of the kind of relationship and the growth that you want for both of you, especially if children get involved. Something to think about, guys.
Well, you know what happens when you talk about relationships, a lot of times relationships, they skip the interview process.
Mm-hmm.
True.
And there's an interview process with relationships, because you've got to know the person on the other end. And
Right.
and if you start treating the relationships as like when you first meet the person as an interview process, because we don't, even at jobs, they don't hire you out just because they see you, right? So you have to start asking those questions that may be tough for you to ask, but hey, because let me tell you, sometimes you walk up to the person and you're like, yo, as a man, do you want kids? No, I don't want kids. Okay, right there, you're off my list, because I'm a female who wants kids. Or vice versa. You ask the woman, does she want kids? She says, I don't want kids. Well, why are you going to stay in a relationship? Because you're losing. See, there's certain things that you have to start to weigh out in a relationship if it's worth the sacrifice. If you're a person who comes from a family and you want a family,
Right.
are you going to get with a woman who doesn't want a family?
On a family? Foolishness.
But then you have guys who go, well, you know, but she looks good, so I just get in a relationship with her. No.
That's right.
So true.
You're messing up your interview process. And so what you have to do is you have to start moving on to the next candidate, because there's someone out there who's going to fit the criteria you're looking for when it comes to the looks, when it comes to the personality, when it comes to how they make you feel, when it comes to how you make them feel. It's all going to gel, but you just have to be patient and go through that process.
Gene, that sounds so good, brother. But
It
can
does.
you imagine the possibility of finding that person who fits what you're looking for, and you come across, and that person enjoys you too? Man, that's like finding a needle in a haystack.
It's not an impossibility.
Listen.
It's
I will
not
not listen.
impossible.
Clay, that.
No,
I
no,
believe that is very possible.
It is
I
not.
believe, Clay, I believe it's very possible, but I believe that it takes for you to do and the other person to do the work to get there. And I say that even in the senses that many people look for so many partners and so many people. Sometimes your partner you have already met once. It just at the time that you met them, it wasn't the right time and place. But after you go back into the wilderness and be among the beasts and the wild things, you realize that we didn't give this the right chance. We had the attraction. And I'll say that we had the attraction. We really had a strong attraction for each other. We really liked each other, but we didn't give the strong enough sacrifice to say, can we make this work and how do we make it work?
There's a number of people who probably can do that, but I think that young people today, brother.
Well, we got it. That's why we got this show. Hey, you know
Look.
what? I heard that people say a lot of things today, and I just want to answer it with one thing. This is the reason why we have fatherhood talks.
Right,
you talked about a lot of stuff about where the young guys who are 20-something years old are doing this. Our goal of this is to be able to be like that Jay-Z and tell them what we did and how we failed or how we succeeded. So they can at least get a little bit of knowledge and say, oh, I'm now going to try this another way. Because because we could continue to say it's never going to work, but we know through our own failures and our own successes. Because I'm not gonna sit here everything is failure, because we have a lot of success. But we also get to show them that it can happen, because I think that larger majority of younger people believe that things don't work because they haven't seen them work, or no one is willing to show them a successful way to get to those things. Everything is.
That's perfect. You leave the segue right where I want to say.
I'm looking for alley hoop. I'm looking for one alley hoop I can throw to you.
Well, Ron, what you just explained, what I've been pondering in my head is and which is back to LJ original point about old school, which is the science of love versus the service of love, right? So when you talk about the science, the science is whoever loved you, that was your science. And so if you only had a big mama or something like that, she showed you what the science of love. And I think most of us, when it comes to the service of love, we just totally disregard the science, right? Because let's say you was raised by Big Mama. Big Mama didn't have to take care of you because no mother wasn't there, because you really wasn't her responsibility. You understand? And so the science of love is people who gave to you, right? Who you wasn't their responsibility, but they gave to you nonetheless. They loved you nonetheless. Now, the service of love is, I think we're good on receiving from the science of love. We all benefited from the science of love, but I think we suck when it comes to the service of love, because the service of love is, back to Gene's point, sacrifice. You understand? And we talking about sacrifice. I think a million times when I was very immature, when I first married my wife about 16 years ago, never been married before, and I was willing to break up at any little thing. You understand?
Right.
Especially if she was wrong. And just because she was wrong, because I hadn't had a track record of just having girlfriend, boyfriend relationships. But I had never been in a marriage before. And so when I got into marriage, I still treated like the playing field that I came from. And I didn't realize, and I think Joyce Myers said it best, you got to give the good you enough time to catch up with the bad you. The same time you gave the bad you got to give the good you. And so if you spent 20, 30 years cultivating the bad you, well, you got at least spend another 20 to 30 years to try to balance out the good you. And I think most of the time, when it comes to our relationships, we're ready to quit on the process, which I heard one of you guys said, of what it takes to be a good you. And that process may consider a sacrifice and may come with you treating somebody good who may necessarily treat you bad, not to their benefit, but to the benefit of you getting the exercise of what it truly means to sacrifice. And I think we think sacrifice is convenient, but it's not. And that's the science. And so until we understand that sacrifice is not convenient, And then we understand we get entrenched in it, because what happens when the woman you love doesn't look and shape and all the way you know what you was attracted to? You understand? Then attraction should have evolved. Attraction, like everything else in your life, should evolve, should mature. And I think most of the time, the only thing really mature is our financial statement. But our ethical and moral and characteristics really never mature, because nobody really said it was important enough for your character and your morale to really mature. When have you heard about a mature morality? Really? Morality is very seldom talking about maturity. Morality says I'm just good the way I was, or the good I had at 18 should be good at 38. And so we never really check the science of that. We rarely never update the information and put a demand, right? Put a demand on what it really means to not only just be loved, because most of us talked about the love we receive, but what does it look like when we give it? What does our sacrifice look like when we actually love, as opposed to looking for the woman that loves us? And that's the question that we'd have to really ponder on and ask to really come to a balanced conclusion in this conversation.
You know, you saying that, Lightborn, there's also a confusion that goes along with that, because a lot of times people equate in relationships sex and love. If you love me, it's because when we sleep together, that's how you're showing me that you love me. Because they confuse that as the emotional tie, when that is just a piece of the relationship. It's not the crutch of the relationship. The crutch of the relationship is what you just said, but they flip it and they get that you know, that the physicalness, and think the physicalness is what dictates what a good relationship is, and throw everything else out the window. So oftentimes we have to start imprinting in our young men and young women that the physical part of the relationship is just that part of the relationship,
Right?
but it isn't the whole. What makes up 90% of that is going to be the interaction when you're not sleeping together, because that's when you have to actually have conversation and understand each other's personalities and deal with each other's quirks.
Let me add to that, Joe. When we keep talking about love, one of the things that I look at is love is a momentary feeling that we have. We can continue to show love, but because we have so many other feelings and emotions that pass through us on a regular basis, we're not always in a love position. Example, she pissed me off at noon. I'm not thinking about love. I'm thinking about how she pissed me off. And what do I do? What do I say to her at that time? Now, did I say something so bad that she doesn't recover? Now, inside, once I get past my bad moment, I can tell her, I love you. But what damage have I done? So when we talk about love and we need people to listen and understand love is an emotion that comes and goes. We have a lot of different emotions. Can we recover? I had 2 referrals on Saturday, both of them young females beating up on the old man and their mates, the father of their kids. And this one, I want to read to you because I found it significant, because I was at a father's program when I received this. And it says this: according to the father, the mother will physically and mentally abuse him. He has never reported the abuse because he is a man. You hear me? He is a man, so he carries the weight of whatever she does to him. And how is that impacting him? Does he love her when she mentally and physically abuses him? And if he doesn't love her, what is his feeling? When we talk about love, we need to always look at the bigger picture. How do you handle those moments? And Lionel, when you were talking about your relationship and talking about how you were in the past, my question to you, because you felt as though you give up on the relationship anytime, how did your mate feel about your, let's call it, cavalier attitude towards the relationship? How did she handle that? How did she feel about it? Can you tell me?
Yeah, she was, matter of fact, she mentored me when it came to love.
She what?
Mentored me.
Okay.
And it's very rare, and I think very rare and very scarce that we allow our mate to mentor us. And she was equipped with enough patience and tolerance to really cultivate the love that we have 16 years later that I
Exactly.
wasn't mature enough to have back then. And so
Right.
this is why that love is, I think, more than an emotion, but more so a movement that's built on more tries than trust. A lot of people think, oh, love is a trust. I'm like, no, nobody, no man walking this earth have the capacity, you understand? Or the real totality of what it takes to truly be trusted. And so with that, I'm like, no, and she gave me the opportunities and the tries to actually get to something the closest I can get to trust. Or she can get the trust in me, or I can get
Right.
the trust in her. And so that's the respect that I have. And that's, man, it's so priceless. I can't even form the words to even explain it.
And that's why I asked that question, because gentlemen, listen to what he said. She had the capacity to not attack, not dump him, not walk away. She stayed and she mentored him, made him a better person. How many women will do that? Not many. Okay, because we as men, we can come in lighthearted. Yeah, if she F up, we done. Okay, or we'll say something that's damaging and cause her to feel as though she needs to leave. Lionel is blessed. I am also, because I know I wasn't the perfect guy, but I have the perfect relationship now. I'm absolutely perfect.
And this is exactly why I continue to say hope and expectancy is there. And so when people are looking at listening to Lionel, listening to Clay, this means that you can too. Listen,
Right.
we're just not selling the hair products. We members.
So like that.
We too have found relationship and look in ways to develop it, and hopefully and you could get from this conversation, being with us on Wednesday night, talking with us, that you can maneuver this better than we did, and not have to go through a lot of the stuff we might have went through, a lot of the insecurities, a lot of the frustration, a lot of the fear, a lot of the trauma that we went through to get to where we are, and some of us still working on where we are. It's not, you know, like it's not a fix all, one pill can fix it. But what you are able to do is be able to hear something other than the things you are hearing outside of this man box. Or I would say outside in that man box. I think I better use that. Outside in the man box. Because in the man box, it's very limited of what you do and what you cannot do. You basically kind of stuck inside. That's why it's the man box. And it's not that big sometimes when you look at it. But fatherhood is fluent, is abundant. And once you go, you know, start beginning to think about becoming a father. See, this is when a man who has been in a relationship and has begun to sacrifice, start thinking about becoming a father. You start looking at what does it take to be a father? Because many of us don't have that model. We didn't have the model of what it means to be a father. And I think this is the part that we miss out on, because we take whatever we get and try to go into a relationship with it. I try to go into the birth with it. And sometimes we need a place to kind of, you know, build our chops up. You know, you don't listen, you don't say I'm going to the league and never been to the basketball court. I'm just saying, you ain't talking about I'm about to go to the league right now. I'm playing with LeBron and them. But you've never been to the basketball court? You never shot at the rim and on the hard top on the gym? That's not going to happen. And this is the same thing that we do and what we like to try to facilitate here at Fatherhood Talks. That brings us, and I see the timekeeper starting to look right at his hand, ready to tell me it's our time. But before our time is up, let me go around, and I know we had a lot talking tonight. Just if anybody got a go around, little round robin, get your last little, little jab. No, I won't say jab. Your last little.
Yeah, I want to comment on that. That little excerpt that Clay read, and I just want to say two things. When it comes to the gentleman in that situation, sometimes, not all the time, sometimes as a person in a relationship and relationships that we witnessed growing up, we get into relationships like we see around us because we feel is commonplace, no matter how detrimental to our health it could possibly be. And then we stick in those relationships as a sense of a need of commitment, because a committed person is going to stay and take all this stuff rather than remove themselves and get the help that they possibly need, and get the help that the person that's actually putting them in that situation needs, because there's a help on both sides. Yeah, sometimes you get into relationships and one of you is a codependent, and you know it's you have to break your habitual habits. and it's not just the person who's the offender who has the habits, it's the person who's allowing it to happen who has the habit. And so it's on both ends, if I'm making any sense. It's on both ends. So, you know, just to say, you know, I didn't want to just let the excerpt pass. I think it's very powerful to hear that sometimes people stay in and it's not just women, sometimes men stay in these situations because of that need to say, I want to be here and I want to stay committed because I'm thinking of the kids.
Yeah.
And men have that mentality too. It's not just women. Men have that mentality too. So
I agree.
sometimes you have to just put yourself in a more healthier space.
I agree. My comment first, I appreciate all of the things that you guys say today. But I'm gonna tell you this, for me, Lionel hit it because as people listen to us, he gave the comment about a woman, and that was the comment about a woman supporting her man. That's what we need to hear. That's what everyone needs to hear. And a man, when we act a fool, if she can hold on and help and guide us, man, and we can turn that corner, it's made. So Lionel, thank you for your comment, brother. I appreciate that.
Lana got the only woman on earth that'll do it though.
No, I got
No,
No, that's not. Don't say it. That's not.
Gene, that doesn't sound too good for what we're looking forward to.
I'm going to put in one for all fathers here. All fathers that are on the program and fathers that are old there, young fathers and old fathers, and older or mature fathers. Let me use that for a better word. Remember, words are like bullets. Once fired, they cannot be taken back. Ask your partner, what is your definition of love? I love you, and that means I will die for you. Some people do that. And I love you based on what you'll do for me. Everyone has a different definition of love. Also, we are all human beings. We have feelings. Keep this in mind. I always say this. You start off with friendship, situationship, relationship, and marriage. It is a step. It steps to go to that goal. Unfortunately, many of us go from sexualship to marriage. So to all those young folks out there, let's educate them. Share the word. We are here. We're here to support you. And anytime you just drop on in the Fatherhood Talks and we roll. That's why.
Hey, Ron, I know Ron, like did Ron just say from sex to sanction?
sex to marriage. Sorry.
He said say.
I'll try to get a word, man.
It's a good one, Rohan. Good child support. Rohan from sex to sanction. That's a good one. Good t-shirt too.
Right?
Go ahead, Ron. Go ahead and close us out.
Okay, so that is nobody else. Okay, I want to thank you guys, man. This conversation, you know, people probably look at our topics and be like, well, what these guys gonna talk about? Or when they go back and look, you know, all they have to do is peek inside, and when they peek in, open up that little book, they'll be like, oh my God, this was a lot more than I thought it was, or what it was going to be. And I think we had a really fruitful conversation tonight. Something for people to really start to think about overall in our parenting, and where our parenting begins as fathers, and how we parent with our co-parents, and how that happens, and how that defines if we have a favorite child, and what is a favorite child. Favorite child may be the child that needs the most from us. Or sometimes our favorite child is the one that can do the most for us. You know, I don't think it's a rule to what favorite child should be. I think that, you know, but I guess you can only have favorite children if you are parenting them. You know, there's some work that comes with having a favorite child, expectations from that. With that being said, we want to remind everybody that, hey, like, share, subscribe, our channel, our page, Also, if you are a father and you know a father who maybe needs to have a little bit more. This conversation tonight was high intense, but we get way on another end on a private Zoom conversation that we have on Wednesday. So if you know a father who might need to come into that section and be able to let his hair down and be able to really voice some of how he feels and what's going on. Look right down in the chat section, look down in the comment section. You'll see the link to be able to come on the Zoom meeting tomorrow at 6:30. Or even if you reach out, you see information, reach out to myself and how you can get connected. And we definitely will be able to bring you into that conversation tomorrow night. That being said, hey, fathers, we know what we do now. I'm going to share with the audience. We do our chant at the end of every one of our meetings. And also we will do another thing when we're doing our chant, we will do our flex. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the flex right now, because when you see it, you'll think, oh, these guys are being macho. They're doing this thing with their macho man, Randy Savage. But it's really for us to hold our children up on our arms. Hold our children up on our arms. Hold our children up on our arms and to hold our families on our shoulders. So fathers, repeat after me. I am.
Prayer first.
I am.
Prayer first.
Is it prayer?
Elders here, prayer first.
What happened?
You want the prayer?
Oh, okay. All right. Go ahead. You want to take us for the prayer?
Oh, Elders here.
Elder Thomas, yeah, he's here.
Yeah. Is it?
Okay, maybe we won't be doing that.
Yeah, we kind of say that. I know sometimes we want to say that privately for the private sessions.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I mixed up the day.
Private sessions.
My bad. Okay, my bad.
Yeah. Okay. So fathers, repeat after me. I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of honor.
I am a man of honor.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of courage.
I am a man of courage.
I say I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of respect.
I
am a man of respect.
Fathers, I say that I am.
I am.
I say that you are.
You are.
I say that we are.
We are.
Championship fathers.
There you go.
Hey, boy, hey, Rohan, you look like you got some guns there. You been doing some push-ups there? So again, folks, you can join us tomorrow night if you want to join us for a more intense session with fathers only, or you can just come back next week and see us next Tuesday. And we want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and a quality time with your families. Remember the real reason for these seasons is for families to be together and fathers for you to lead those families at this time. Thank you all and good night.
Peace.
All right.
Thanks. All right.
Hold on, everybody.